In this lesson, and actually for the next few lessons, we're going to be looking at styling and layout. But in this lesson specifically, I'm going to keep it really basic. Try and keep this one short before we get into the real big meaty ones. I just want to separate out some of those really simple things for you just to get started. We'll be looking at how we add things to the page, how we do some of the basic stuff like padding, and what stuff we can drag and drop, and how we use that structures panel, just so you can get a feel for how it works and get used to working in Oxygen. So let's jump in. And here we are again. What we're going to be looking at here is a few simple tips and tricks around styling before we get stuck into the real lessons around layout and styling. Now, some of these things you may have seen me do them before, but what I'm going to do here is slow down and actually explain what's going on when I do them. So let's take a look. The first thing I'm going to do is click add, and then I'm going to add a section here by clicking add section. You'll see that it shows up here in the body as a section, and you'll also notice that on this left hand side this primary tab is open with the core things that we can style for the element that we've added. So first thing I'm going to do is change the background. I'm going to change the text color, and I'm going to align this center, and then I'll put a heading inside this. So we'll go down to heading, and I'll call this hero heading. One thing I want to point out here is that when you add elements inside another element like a section or a div, you can't do what you normally do in other page builders, which is drag and drop. I know some of them do this, but you can't actually drag and drop from here. What you need to be doing is selecting the area where you want to add this new element. So for example, I'm going to add a new section here, add section. I'm going to make this one green. I'm going to make the text say a dark blue. Now, if I want to add something into this section, the top section, I need to select that to be able to put it into that section. So now if I go add text, I've got my text in here. If I want to add something in this section, I need to click that and then add it in that section. So I might want to click and add an icon, and I'll align this. I might want to click and add a heading. Subheading. I'll make that a heading 2. Now what you can do in Oxygen is drag and drop from this structure panel. So you can actually move this one above here, and you can move things in and out. So let's say we wanted to change this and move this heading into this new section and swap this subheading into this section. You can actually drag them and move them around. Now, a quick tip and something you may have seen me do before is when you have something like any element, if I click this and I roll over it, you can see these areas where it's starting to go purple around the edge of this. And what it's allowing me to do is click and drag and add padding or margin onto this. And this can work with a section, an image, an icon, a div. And what you'll see is if you go into the advanced section and look under size and spacing, it literally is updating the same fields for padding and margins. So the same with this. If I change this here and go into advanced, size and spacing, you will see this update live as I make those changes. This is great if you're eyeballing stuff and you want to do stuff quickly, but if you need to do stuff precisely, obviously you're not going to be able to do that visually. You might want to come into this advanced panel and type in something like 40 and then 40 to know that you've got the right size and spacing. When we want to duplicate or copy something, we do have two ways of doing this. There is a duplicate option up here in the left hand side, or we can select it in the structures panel, click the edit, and it gives us a few options down here, such as duplicate, wrap within a div, or rename. Now, renaming things can be quite handy. So for example, we could rename this and call it hero, and rename this to intro. Now this doesn't affect anything. It doesn't change the styles. It doesn't change anything that gets outported onto the front end. It just means that it's a little bit easier to organize. Now, as you can see, we've only got a couple of things in here, and already if we start to expand it up, there's a fair bit of information going on. Now imagine when you've got a whole website, it can pay to actually name things. The last tip that I have, and this is something that we'll be doing as we build the website, is that quite often I will build something in the actual template, and then what I'll do is know that I want to save this as a reusable element. So rather than creating that initially in the template area, what you can do is click this edit and go down to make reusable. You'll give it a name such as my hero, click OK. It gives us the option to go in and edit that reusable part, and you can see that it's showing up as a reusable part, which is different to say this section, because we can still get to the styles on this one, and with the reusable part we need to actually jump into that reusable part to start editing it. When you've made big changes like this, it's important to click save, and then I'm going to quickly refresh this, and so you can see that this reusable part will now show up here under reusable. So let's quickly refresh this. So you can see now we've reloaded this. If I go to add and I go down to reusable parts, we've got my hero and we've got my footer. The my footer was the reusable part that we created in the earlier videos. These are some of the small hints and tips that I've kind of glossed over in the other lessons and will be important as we move through the next main lesson on layouts and styling. Well done. See, there you go. That was pretty easy. The next lesson though is going to be big. It really is. So let's not waste any time. Click complete lesson and get prepared to learn the details of layouts and styling.